see you again. It's been so long.
I'm so glad to be here this morning. This is Tuesday, the 26th of September 2023. Our listener and our viewer, Beatrice Adamuiji is my name, and it's Unity Train. Of course, I don't do this alone, so I have in the studio this lovely Tuesday morning an in-house analyst and political scientist. I am talking about Shabu Duro. Shabu, good morning.
Thank you very much, Kobe. Good morning, viewer and listener. Thank you for staying tuned.
Yes, in the studio this morning I have a guest, but I won't let him, say a word at the moment, and I will not even say his name at the moment. I beg that you stay tuned, because that very time is coming with which you get to know all of who that I have in the studio this morning. And so let's just begin with today's the segment. Okay, yes, of course. What do? We get to look at issues as they are trending on our national dailies, and then we just have a review, and we call this review segment of Unity Trend this morning. And so we begin with that. But of course, before we even start it, one thing that you cannot let go is peaceful coexistence. And so do your best to live in peace with your neighbor. And thank you very much. Doro?
Yes.
As usual.
Yes.
Let's see what we have on our national daily this morning. This one is coming from Daily Trust. It says police arrest courtesan kingpin 18 others over Sagamu killings. And another one here, although we're not taking them all together at the same time, but let's just read this one also. This one is coming from The Nation. It says Aye Datiwa files a suit to stop impeachment. There's another big one there.
Yeah.
This one goes a bit of it's politics somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, and then we have another one, but why don't we just begin with Sagamu's issue?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. And first of all, let me say I'd like to commend you, and then of course let's say the entire management of Unity FM, of course the staff as well, for the emphasis on peaceful coexistence on daily basis. I think like you rightly said, it's something that is indispensable. We without it we can pursue whatever aspirations we have set for ourselves as individuals or groups and things like that. And I think that if there's anything we deserve commendation for, I think it's the fact that as much as possible we try to emphasize on the need for people to live in peace regardless of affiliations and all of that. This is it. And then of course again on a tragic note could be I have just been informed by the programs manager Alhaji Nazifi Abdullahi that we have lost a member of the Nakandes family. Yeah, specifically, we have lost Hafizu CD Nakande. Well, I don't know if it's actually last night or just this morning, but I do understand that Janaza prayer takes place by 9:30, at the Nakande premises. This morning, yeah. So we send our sympathies and condolences to the entire Nakandes, and we pray for the repose of the soul of the departed. That is it.
Yes. A sad one there.
Yeah, a very sad one, really. Very sad one, really. So back to the issue on Shagamu. Last week, Kobe, I think we said a lot of things about the Shagamu incidences and all of that. Yeah, I think it was last week or thereabout. Of course, what we understood last week was that the police, members of the DSS, had actually arrested some 6 suspected cultists alongside Damilare Mohammed, a lawmaker of the Osun State House of Assembly, and the arrest was also in connection with I think his alleged involvement in aiding and abetting cultist activities and things like that. Specifically, we understood that he was actually harboring about 6 fleeing cultists, in his official residence and things like that, as a result of which, he was actually arrested by the DSS. now today again we understand that 19 other suspected cultists, alongside their kingpin, have also been arrested by members of the Special Weapons and Tactics, that is SWAT. This is according to the Police Public Relations Officer of Osun State, Omolola Odutola. This is what we have at the moment, and I think could be like we did say last week. It's unfortunate that Shagamu has actually turned into a killing field as a result of the persistence of occultic activities and things like that. Don't forget that last week when we spoke on this issue, there was a certain incident that happened in Shagamu, where there was actually a clash between two opposing cultist groups, as a result of which about 20 lives were actually lost and things like that. This is the issue. And then again we do understand, according to reports, that according to reports from the police and all of that, virtually every young man you come across in Shagamu is likely to be a cultist, and this is quite unfortunate, isn't it? And then again, what is more baffling is the fact that certain highly placed members of society have been found neck deep in some of these issues. This is it. And so I think it's heartwarming that the police are actually not resting on their laurels as far as nipping this particular issue or this particular situation in the bud is actually concerned. And I think that if the police continue on this trajectory, then probably sooner than later we could say that peace and normalcy, of course, law and order should be able to return to Shagamu. This is the issue. But again, I think on the sidelines of this whole issue could be, let us also say this. You see, I think that some of these things don't just happen, right? There are fundamental or systemic issues, that might just be, providing the impetus for some of these, persistent, issues. Like we just read, a certain lawmaker, is found neck deep in some of these things, and then you begin to ask why, that is actually the case. I think, like we've always said, the political culture in Nigeria is very, very toxic, could be. It's very, very toxic. Very, very toxic in the sense that it's characterized by this sort of a cutthroat competition, over power and things like that. And it may have something to do with the zero-sum nature or the winner-takes-all disposition, of the political culture in the country, and things like that. As a result of that, you discover that political contests or political competitions are hardly devoid of rancor, acrimony, conflict, and things like that. This is the issue. And I think because of that situation, you have a situation whereby, it's sometimes so difficult for, political actors to be able to win elections on the basis of, fair and legitimate competitions. This is the issue. For that reason, a lot of them will sometimes want to recruit unemployed, hungry, poor, and susceptible young men. You understand? As either bodyguards, political jobbers, and things like that. This is the issue. And so I think that at the end of the day, if we really, want to be able to address, some of these issues, then of course we also have to go back to the drawing board. This is the issue. Mohammed Damilare, the lawmaker who has been arrested by the DSS, might not just be the only one who, don't forget that sometimes was it 2019 or before then, some lawmakers, some, hoodlums who had actually, attempted to rob a bank somewhere in Offa, was it in Kogi State, actually confessed upon interrogation that actually they were being sponsored by, then Senate President Bukola Saraki and things like that. We have lots and lots of such issues. So if you have a political culture where, politicians are the people who make laws that actually forbid or prohibit or illegalize, thuggery, cultism, armed robbery, banditry, terrorism, and things like that, and then you turn around only to find that the same politicians are actually recruiting and conscripting, young men, who serve as political jobbers, or bodyguards and things like that. I think, it's marks of hypocrisy, and lack of sincerity in the entire system. This is the issue. And so I think at the end of the day, like the HAUSA person will say, in akabita barao se abi tamabisa ushima. This is the issue. If some of these boys are guilty of certain misdemeanor, I think it behoves on us to also find out who might just be responsible for some of the things they do, because they might not just be acting on behalf of themselves. They might be carrying out certain activities on behalf of people who ordinarily, should be setting standards, for members of society and things like that. Okay,
away from that, Shabuduru, why don't we just also go into saying these coming from the Nation? It says, Aye Datiwa files suit to stop impeachment.
Lucky Ayedatiwa, Deputy Governor of Fondo State, who is deputizing. Deputy Governor to Rotimi Akeredolu, who returned only recently from medical trip abroad, and all of that. Could be, this is very funny, isn't it? Because I think sometimes last week we did say something about Philip Shuaibu, Deputy Governor of
who just was reallocated.
Whose office was reallocated to a different person. Philip Shuaibu, Deputy Governor of Edo State. Who is deputy to Godwin Obaseki. And of course, like we did say last week, there's been a running battle between these two. And all of that. Could be it's baffling that governors and their deputies hardly end well.
Yes, even though
we've seen these countless times. We've seen these countless times, and so I don't know what's really happening now. Lucky Ayedatiwa is actually apparently on the wrong side of the political situation in Ondo State. Apparently, he and his boss, Rotimi Akeredolu, have fallen apart. This is the issue. According to report, when Rotimi Akeredolu was, on medical tourism abroad, Lucky Ayedatiwa actually, got himself, enmeshed in certain misdemeanors, which ordinarily you wouldn't expect, of a person of that caliber and things like that. Of course, most of the things that have been said about him at the moment are mere allegations, and like lawyers will always say, innocent until proven guilty. So it remains to be seen what comes out of this. But I do understand that at the moment, the State House of Assembly is making moves to actually, impeach him. And then on his part, he's making moves, exploring legal options to stop the impeachment move and things like that. And of course, the Afenifere sociocultural group is also calling on the state government and the State Assembly specifically to ensure that it doesn't get messier than this, because it could actually affect even the entire aspiration of the people of the state and things like that. So it remains to be seen what actually comes out of this. Now, what are the contentious issues? Number one, there's this allegation that when Rotimi Akeredolu was, on medical tourism abroad, his deputy, Lucky Ayedatiwa, attempted to buy a 300 million naira worth of an SUV. SU vehicle, a sport utility vehicle. You understand? Actually, without the express permission, of his boss, who was on medical tourism, amongst others, allegations and things like that. This is the issue. But what I am actually not comfortable with is the fact that at the moment, as we speak, just like in the case of Philip Shuaibu, whose aides have been withdrawn or disbanded, whose office has been, reallocated to a different person, while he has actually been moved, to an abandoned structure elsewhere and things like that. The media aides of Lucky Ayedatiwa have also been sacked. This is the issue. And then I don't know, legally speaking, I don't know if that is actually right or wrong, but I feel that it's a bit extreme, because at the moment, even if he's being accused of a certain misdemeanor, I think it is for the court, or for, the judicial institutions or whatever legal proceedings might have been activated to actually determine whether he's guilty or not. And so going as far as actually, sacking his media aides and things like that will actually amount to a sort of a political witch hunt or persecution, which actually will not all go well. This is the issue. But just to round up on this, could be, I think we probably have to say something about why governors and their deputies have always fallen out. Here in Plateau State, I think we've not forgotten the case of the conflict or the face-off or the rift between then Governor Jonah Jang and his deputy Pauline Tallen, as a result of which at a point he actually had to drop her for late Ignatius Longjang and things like that. And apparently it was because then Pauline Tallen, deputy governor, was actually nurturing a gubernatorial ambition and things like that, which didn't go down well with then Governor Jonah Jang, because he actually had an anointed successor in the person of Late JNS Pajok and things like that. This is the issue. In Bauchi State, we have Garba Gadi, deputy governor to then Governor Isa Yuguda, who also fell out of favor with his boss as a result of his refusal to decamp from the NNPP, which actually was the party that brought them to power, to the People's Democratic Party and things like that. And then even current President Bola Tinubu also had similar issue with his then deputy Femi Pedro, when he held sway as governor of Lagos State, as a result of then Governor Tinubu's decision to actually anoint Babatunde Fashola as his successor, as against Femi Pedro, which was the reason Femi Pedro had to actually decamp to the Labour Party and slug it out in the elections with Babatunde Fashola. These are some of the issues. And then of course lately we just talked about Philip Shuaibu, who also has fallen out of favor with his boss, Godwin Obaseki, as a result of Shuaibu's ambition to actually succeed Godwin Obaseki, and things like that. A whole lot of issues here and there. I do remember also that former governor Rochas Okorocha also fell out of favor with his deputy Jude Agbaso, because there was a gentleman's agreement between the two over power over power shift and things like that. And when Governor Rochas Okorocha decided to anoint somebody else, it didn't go down well with Jude Agbaso, who decided to actually resign and things like that. And then of course Rabiu Kwankwaso and then his deputy too, current immediate past governor of Kano State, Umar Ganduje, and things like that. So when you look at the entire history, it's not palatable. And so I think maybe deputy governors first of all need to probably try as much as possible to remain loyal, because I do understand could be that sometimes it might have something to do with a sort of over curiosity or over ambition, on the part of deputy governors. You have a boss who actually picked you from somewhere and then, made you a deputy governor and things like that. And then you want to outsmart him all of a sudden by way of trying to, like Robert Greene will say, you don't outsmart or outshine the master, right? I think some of these governors need to stop being, some of these deputy governors need to stop being faster than their shadows. This is the issue. It's unfortunate that, after a year or two of being, after a year or two of coming on board as governor or deputy governor, you are already, pressing buttons or planning to become a governor and things like that. It's something that is not likely to go down well with your boss and some of the issues. And then, of course, the bosses on their part too also need to, to stop being despotic and dictatorial. This is the issue. I don't see anything wrong with your deputy wanting to be a governor and things like that. Even if you feel that it doesn't go down well with you, probably because you have the same ambition or things like that. I think there are always diplomatic and amicable ways of addressing some of these issues. Because at the end of the day, like they say, when two elephants actually fight, it is the grass that actually suffers. And like we are now saying, in Ondo State, in Edo State, where governors and their deputies are actually at loggerheads, you can see the entire business of government has actually been grounded. Nothing is actually working, and then the people at the end of the day are at the receiving end, and I think it's something that shouldn't be.
Yes, the people will always be at the receiving end. And now away from politics, let's go to security. This one says that troops rescue 7 abducted female students, 3 construction workers in Zamfara. Now, security issues here.
Yes.
So how do we go about this? We have just 5 minutes to go on this.
Yeah, well, I think it's commendable. Don't forget that on Friday, 24 female students were abducted by bandits or maybe terrorists or kidnappers, whichever nomenclature you want to give them. In in a certain hostel in Federal University Gusau, in Zamfara State. This is the issue. And then the following day, Saturday specifically, the report actually had it that 13 out of those 24 have been rescued, by troops. And then today again, we understand that about 7 of them, have actually been rescued alongside some 3 other construction workers and things like that. And so I think that's quite commendable. According to the report, the names of the rescued victims are Rukaya Batola, Chemistry Education, 200 level, and then Mary Monday, 300 level, Microbiology, and then Mariam Salahuddin, Accounting, 300 level, Salama Tudahiru, Microbiology, 200 level, and then Ferdowsi Abdul Aziz, Biology Education, 200 level, and then Amatullah Bahiru, Chemistry Education, 200 level, and then of course Ketora Bulus, Physics Education, 300 level. These are the names of the ladies who are said to actually have been rescued, by the troops. Now, I think we must give it to the troops and all of that. But again, I think that these kidnappings, especially of female students in northern Nigeria, is something that has becoming a recurrent decimal. It's something that has actually become, a hard nut to crack. And I think probably, there are probably issues that we do need to interrogate. I do understand the motive normally is to, sort of use those female students as bargaining chips in order to be able to extract, financial, benefit from their parents,
that can be one.
And all of that. Yeah, in Chibok, for example, in 2014, 276 girls were kidnapped. In February 2018, 110 girls were kidnapped from JSS Dapchi in Yobe State. February 26, 2021, 279 female students kidnapped in Jangebe, Zamfara State. December 2020, 344 schoolboys kidnapped in Katsina State, and then 42 students kidnapped in Niger State, somewhere in Kayatarwa and things like that. The whole motive, like I did say, might just be to use some of these students as bargaining chips and things like that. But you see, the problem here is the trauma and the anguish that these students and their families normally do go through. And of course, as with the case of the Chibok girls and things like that, some of them ended up being married off to terrorists by then Abubakar Shekau and things like that. That's why we keep praying that some of these, all of these kidnapped 24 students in JSS, in Federal University Gusau, will eventually be released, by the bandits. We don't want a repeat of that situation where some of them will actually be withheld, by bandits as wives and things like that, because it actually worsens the entire situation. So we give it to the troops for, at the feet, for the ability to rescue, this reasonable number, and we do hope they are going to be able to sustain the tempo, so that at the end of the day, we might be singing a new song. But I think at the end of the day, I think there might just be a need to find a special way or to make special arrangements as far as the security of students in northern Nigeria are actually concerned, because apparently, students in hostels are actually not safe, and things like that.
Okay, I think we also give it to President Bola Tinubu. Having to, he gave instructions that these girls be rescued anytime soon, and then we're beginning to see the situation where results.
Apparently, the security agencies are hitting the instruction and things like that. But again, like we've always said, could be. Yeah, the president doesn't have to even give any instruction, because at the end of the day, it's a moral obligation as far as the security agencies are concerned. That's their job, isn't it? That's what they're actually there to do. So with or without any express instruction from the president, I think the president was just being emphatic, and things like that. But again, with or without any express instruction on his part, I think the security agencies should actually be seen to be doing their job and things like that. And I think we could say on the back of this evidence that they are actually on top of the situation, and we would like to see a sustenance of these feats going forward.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much, Doro, for taking us on this. Our viewer and our listener, at this point, we'll just go on a short break. When we come back, our guest is already seated, and that will be the time I will introduce him. So stay tuned, I beg you.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
attention. It starts from the foundation. Everybody needs somebody.
Everybody needs some love.
You turn a blind eye and care nothing less. Say it's just business, all about the money. You are so unbothered as long as they pay. Say it's just business, all about the money. You know they're on a fast lane, but you've got business to run. So you look away the other way.
It concerns you. It a kill love, it a kill dreams. It a land people for jail. War against drug abuse.
Unity TV.
I was the head boy in my primary school, senior prefect and best graduating student in my secondary school, but drug abuse almost ruined my life.
I was on an average of 2 grams of cocaine per day.
I was taking 8 ampoules of pentazosine daily.
European shisha, cocaine.
I became a user, a dealer, and a gangster.
I saw other users drowning. I knew I didn't want to be like them, but I was already trapped.
My family disowned me.
My employment was terminated.
I sold my car, sold my house. I'll go out well-dressed and return shoeless, shirtless in exchange for drugs.
I was saying things that were not real, and I once stabbed myself because I felt something crawling under my skin.
I contacted NDLEA and started therapy.
I spent 3 months in therapy.
I spent 8 months.
It's easy to relapse, but your mind has to be stronger than the cravings.
Drugs does not love you. You are not the one using drugs. Drugs are the one using you. Say no to drug abuse.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead.
Well, thank you so much for still staying tuned to Unity 93.3 FM and of course Unity TV. Beatrice Adamuiji remains my name. If you go Kubi, I'll still be fine. Don't forget, we are reaching you live from the city of Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria. Don't forget again that home of peace and tourism. And this segment is that very segment that we throw in a topic, so we discuss at length with a guest. And so in every country, there are processes of becoming a leader. So there are a group of individuals saddled with the responsibility of leading within a stipulated period of time, managing human resources and incompatible goals. And so today we'll be discussing law and election in Nigeria. And I am so honored to have in the studio this morning a legal practitioner based in Nigeria, and so a public affairs analyst and unrepentant advocate of peaceful coexistence and good governance. I'm talking about Barrister Sam Tuggs. He is in the studio this morning. Barrister, good morning.
Good morning, Colby. Good morning, Doro. Good morning, the viewers and listeners.
Thank you so much for having time to be in the studio with us this morning. It's been a while, Barrister.
It's a pleasure.
And
it's a pleasure being on Unity FM and TV as well.
We actually do miss Barrister a lot.
It's a pleasure.
And of course, we owe you an appreciation for being there anytime we call, especially to those of our community of intelligent listeners and viewers who would call for one issue or the other, for reaching out, in order to assist. We appreciate that, Barrister.
Glory to the Almighty God. It's our duty as humans to also help other humans.
Oh, thank you very much. The discussion is about law and election in Nigeria. And I want to believe, Doro,
yes,
Barrister is the right man for such a topic.
Yeah, well, he is. He is
Yes.
a high-ranking INEC. I think he's the head of, a legal department of INEC. And so, of course, elections, tribunals, are still ongoing and things like that. And so I think that he's in the best position to, do justice to the issues. That's why we actually had to bring him here.
Yes, of course. And so let's just go to do this. Well, let's start this way. Maybe how do you assess the political behavior of political actors in Nigeria? Let's just get to know what's your assessment?
Yes, before we go to that, I want to condole with Unity FM over the loss of Nakande's family member. I pray that the Almighty God will grant them special comfort. And also in the same vein, I want to congratulate Dr. Salihu Nakande, who was appointed as ICT Special Assistant to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I believe that his wealth of experience will come to play in terms of issues of communication, technology, and also he has always served humanity, and we believe that this will not be an exception. Going back to what you just said, actually it is a very, very important topic. Our politicians over the years have looked at it as a business or as a venture, where they just go in, a lot of them, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them go in there with the mindset that they would probably just what I can gain, not what I can give to the public. So politicians usually go in there with the wrong mindset. You find out that somebody wants to be a leader or wants to lead people but has never read any book on leadership. So by the time the person gets there, it becomes very difficult for that person to actually do what is expected of him. So I would say that the political actors over the years have been recycled, where there's no mentorship, where you don't have. Doro was making a very important comment during the newspaper review, and he was talking about politicians generally, especially governors and their deputies, some of the rancor between the two sets of people. In my opinion, there's something that is coded, meaning that probably the governors are aware. There was a story that was told about late Botman. I can remember very well when late Botman was, I think when Daria was impeached or something illegally for a period of time, Botman became the acting governor. So Botman said, they said he exclaimed that, wow, so this young boy is having access to this amount of resources. It was just a joke, but whether it was true or not, it gives you the picture that our politicians, there's no, ordinarily, if I'm deputy governor, I should step in the shoes of my governor, knowing the policies that have been going on. So it's to tell you, in a nutshell, the political actors in Nigeria have given a very wrong notion and a terrible notion to even the upcoming younger politicians. Once you get there and you find that the resources are enormous, all you do, it's like they said, just like you mentioned, there are some of this, even legislators involved in criminality to a large extent. So the political actors have not, in my personal opinion, because I'm speaking as an individual, not for any organization, I'm talking as an individual, that the political actors have done terribly, in my personal opinion. Unlike if you find out in advanced climes, where you find out that deputy governors become governors over time, people who have, before you even become the president, you would have served in different capacities before getting there. So I feel the political actors have not done well as far as democracy is concerned in Nigeria.
And again, Barrister, we have the judiciary. Why must they be involved in electoral processes?
Yes,
this is another big question here.
Very, very good
people
question.
Would say, why should there be all these tribunal and then the judiciary?
Yes, the law of the land that is supreme in section 1, subsection 1 of the Constitution clearly states that the Constitution is supreme. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, it means it is the superior law. If you go further down, section 1, subsection 3 clearly states that any other law that is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution is null and void. And once it's inconsistent, it means it becomes null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. I still want to state that the judicial powers is vested in the court, section 6 of the 1999 Constitution. If you go through all the courts of records, court of superior records and all that, they are there. So what it means simply is like, the National Assembly makes laws, just like we have the three arms of government.
Yes.
So the judiciary is an arm of government that is established by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I would say that judicial powers are vested in the courts. So it means that any other thing, if you want to challenge, they say you can wave your hands as much as you can wave your hands, but let it not touch my nose. So if somebody's hands touches your nose, it means you will need redress. So if you need redress, it has to do with the judiciary. It means that since the powers are vested in the courts, so if my rights is infringed by somebody else, there is a mechanism, is an aspect of democracy that is enshrined in the Constitution. So the judiciary is an aspect, is an arm of government which is saddled with the responsibility of interpreting laws as they are, and also interpretation of law. So there's no how, if somebody is aggrieved as a political actor, let me use that word, that would want, you cannot go anywhere but find redress in the court. And in this context, they say it times without number that the election petitions generally are sui generis. What that simply means is that they are a special kind of court which has been established by the National Assembly. That's why we have the Electoral Act. We've been having different electoral acts, but the current one is the Electoral Act 2022 that was passed into law by the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. So you see, that is a special, the law allows this aspect to come to play, so that when you have a problem as far as the elections is concerned, you can challenge it at the tribunal.
Okay, Barrister, I still have this. How healthy is this whole thing?
Yes.
That you always have this election thing going to the table of the judges and then decided there in the end. How healthy?
Beautiful. The assumption, Barrister, is that ordinarily elections are supposed to be, I think that's the general perception, yes. Maybe the layman's perception is that, elections should start and end with the voter and probably INEC. Yes. Why does, could be asked, is it healthy?
Yes.
I mean, for elections to always have to end on the...
It's not just because I'm a lawyer and a specialist in election matters, no.
Okay.
But I would say that it's very healthy. Let me give an example. The commission, that's INEC, has a department that is called the ADR department. That ADR department usually is supposed to step in to mediate between parties that are aggrieved during elections, even before litigation. So those mechanisms have been there, but our politicians and political actors as they are, nobody wants to go into that option. But I would say that the judiciary has done, especially the tribunals, because now we're looking at an aspect which is the election petition tribunals, which after the elections you have 21 days within which to file your petition if you are aggrieved with the elections. But we know if you go back to the polling units, we all know what happens at the field. At a point I wanted to go to the field to find out actually what happens on the field so that when I come back to the courts, I can be able to apply my experience in the court. And I remembered in 2019 I decided to go to a particular polling unit called a particular ward. I was supervising that ward called Jim Larry ward in Taraba State, and I discovered that as soon as I went there and materials were distributed for elections, because I'm bringing to foreplay what from the question, why do we have to end before judges?
Courts, yes.
The courts. So I went there and the materials were distributed. Unfortunately, one of the people who was distributing the materials gave result sheets to all the polling units, 11 polling units in that particular ward. And at 2 o'clock, at the close of poll, they now discovered that the result sheets were mixed. One was taken to another polling unit, the one for the other polling unit, because they were customized. I know that's a serious, dangerous issue. So the community leader gave me a bike with someone who I don't know, took me to the first polling unit. They were understanding, gave me back the result sheet, and I exchanged it with the correct one. Went to the second one. They did the same thing. The third one, I was almost lynched because they felt seen me with that guy. I don't know him, but he has been a notorious criminal without me knowing. So you see, they thought we were there to enfranchise them of their votes. So I had a picture. I'm just summarizing. I had a picture. In fact, they almost lynched me. So I had to use wisdom to tell them we can go back to, and there was a phone number for distress call, and I was able to place the distress call, the emergency call, which the soldiers came and rescued us there. The next day when I was in court, I had to tell the court that would be the last time
you
I
will
will ever
actually
go
have
to the
anything to do with the
field
field.
for any reasons, because they do what they do. They will come and we go back to court. So you see, in circumstances like that, it can become, electoral violence can erupt.
Definitely.
And destruction of ballot papers and so many other things. The only way, whoever was disenfranchised, probably he would have won the elections. The only way he can get redress is when he approaches the court. So in my personal opinion, the courts are there. If you look at people like Adams Oshumole, Amechi, you look at a lot of leaders wouldn't have been leaders
without the court.
Without the courts.
The intervention
so
of the court.
Intervention of the court. If I've been cheated in court during the elections, I should be able to approach the court for redress, because the law permits me to do that. So I would say that it is actually healthy, because in every advanced democracy, only the problem we have in our judicial system, it's how slow the process is. If the process was fast enough, like in one of these African countries, when elections was conducted, the next day judgment was passed. So it shows that the judicial system has its own demerits, but the emphasis on how healthy it is can never be overemphasized, because that's the only procedure. They usually say that the judiciary is the hope of the common man. But I have a different notion. I feel the judiciary is where you can get justice, because injustice can be meted out against somebody who is not a common man. That's the truth.
It's possible.
So it is also a place where you can get justice. So in brief, it's healthy.
Ademola Adeleke is
Very
also
well.
a recent beneficiary
Yes,
of
he's a
the
beneficiary of
judicial
that
intervention you talked about.
Okay, Barrister, you seem to want to agree that to you it's healthy.
It's very healthy.
Yes. Now I think the question will now be, okay, what's your opinion, or what do you think the integrity of the very people who would have to ensure justice?
Well, that's a very, very good question. I think the judicial system and the profession, the legal profession, you have those who are at the bench, you have the bar, the bench and the bar. And in those actors, you don't only have these two actors, you also have the registry of the court. Those who are not lawyers, who are also involved in the day-to-day administration of justice, meaning those where we file processes. The system needs an overhaul. It can never, this aspect of it can never be overemphasized, because I've come to discover that the things that go on, even from the registry, you want to file a document, ordinarily there's a fee for filing. You go to file, but somebody is expecting that you give him what is more than what is legal, and by doing his job. So I think that the integrity starts from the registry itself. I mean, those who are involved in the day-to-day administration of justice, those who we don't see. We only see the judges. We don't see those people. So I feel that the judges too, there is need for greater improvement. We'll say that before you become a high court judge, whatever judge, it means you would have passed through tutelage on integrity.
Yes.
Meaning that your integrity should not be in question. I want to say that we have heard a lot of stories, and those stories, there are people who have been scandalized. There are people whom the NJC, National Judicial Council, have actually suspended. There are people who have been forced to compulsorily retire because of the issues they have been involved in collecting bribes, and it has been proven. There are cases like that. But that doesn't change the fact that a judge, that is why some of them are not allowed to socialize like ordinary person.
Yes.
Because you cannot, if you are doing my matter, I shouldn't be seen to be close to you,
Definitely.
to pervert justice or to influence the outcome of any litigation before.
So like soldiers, your lifestyle, their lifestyle is sort of regimented.
So it's supposed to be also that in that dimension. But I would say that the judges have a lot at stake when it comes to issues of integrity. So the system, we must begin to produce judges where people can go to sleep without blinking an eye.
Yes.
Because there are people who, we've come to discover over the years too, there are people who probably after call to bar, never practice any kind of law. Then later on, because of connections in court, because those things have come to play too.
Yes.
Then the person is given a high court judge. Then you discover that even in the administration of justice, he's stranded. No matter what, how you want to develop, you cannot compare that judge with someone who has practiced for not less than 10 years. With a person who is constantly in court. You discover that even his reasoning in judgments are usually different. So those of us in the system understand that, we understand these intricacies and some of these issues that are there. So integrity is not just in collecting bribe. Integrity is even on the job. So if you don't have integrity, meaning that if you are not learned in the job, of course, people can learn over time on the job. But we would say that the system must create a situation where you have people who, first of all, have integrity on the job. Meaning that they know the procedures.
They know the job.
Yes, because that's the starting point. That's the starting point.
Yes.
Because if you know the job, you know the cases that have been decided, you would have handled cases. That's why they usually ask them, how many cases have you handled before you are even conferred, before you are even given a responsibility as a high court judge or a judge of the federal high court or elevated. So I would say that that's the first point in integrity as far as I'm concerned. Before employing these judges, there is need to put a searchlight on their integrity in practice of the profession. It's either you have been in the registry, you have administered justice by all the processes of filing, you are a registrar, or you have practiced in a law firm for not less than a period of time, which has given you the knowledge. That's the way the first integrity starts. Then the second integrity is, first of all, you look at of your honor. That's what the issues. That's why we call them my lords. Your honor, your worship. It's a title that befits those who occupy that office. So I would feel that there's need for the system, an overhaul of the system from those you produce into the bench and those who are in the bench to have unquestionable integrity.
Now, Barrister, I'm tempted to ask you this. Could be when we were discussing some of these issues, during some of the judgments and things like that. We did say jokingly that, tribunal, seasons or election seasons are normally like a season of plenty, for lawyers and judges and things like that. Barrister, do you share that view? I think you've only recently returned from, I saw you were involved in this thing.
Yes,
is it truly a season of plenty for
I've been fully involved, but on my side, I'm involved in mostly I'm a respondent.
Okay.
So it means that I defend the elections. I defend people who have won elections.
Okay.
So mostly that's it. But well, people have their opinions. I've heard them say, lawyers, this is your season of harvesting. I know that's your season of harvesting.
Yes.
But it might not necessarily be true in this dimension. When we're talking about the integrity of the judiciary, it doesn't exempt the lawyers. Where lawyers charge, it is known. It's a notorious fact that some lawyers charge exorbitant fees. So if somebody has won elections that is supposed to work for his community, he will be spending time on litigation, paying lawyers, filing processes, appeals. I know somebody was telling me just recently I was trying to cross appeal a matter, and the person just called for just the records of court. I was one bill that was given to me. I said, those litigants have been going through a lot. That's the reality. Ordinarily, I would have said, let me bring my photocopier and photocopy those processes and bind them. But there are procedures that we cannot run away from. So I'm of the opinion that yes, it is true that people work, but their legal fees is legal. That's what I would say.
How legal? When you
it is legal.
I mean, how legal, guys? When you just confess that?
No, it's not a confession. It's just an observation.
Okay.
Yes, because the truth of the matter is like some charge exorbitant prices.
Yes,
that's the truth. And I think the legal, that's the NBA. Nigerian Bar Association should be able to step in and begin to checkmate some of these things. Because if I'm charged very high, let's assume I win elections and I'm charged very high, I pay those charges, then at the end of the day, I'm expected to work at my constituents.
And so it's going to affect performance.
It's going to affect the because of resources. So I think there should be, but you know, politicians will always be politicians. Those fees are nothing to them, some of them. Let me give an example. If you charge, let's assume 100 million, I'm giving an example, it might not be close to that, I just gave an example, and the person decides he didn't win elections, but he's able to cover that money for litigation. What that is telling you, I've come to realize that most of them know that their petitions can't go anywhere, but they would want to have a bargaining power. Where appointments, once you are on litigation, I've seen it like 2 or 3 in some of the petitions I've handled so far. The person just said, he said to some of us that I just want a bargaining power. I know that this thing is not going to go in my direction, but I want the bargaining power. And obviously someone will make commissioners. So you see the system, it's just full of a lot of issues that the ordinary citizen on the street might not understand the processes of court, you know. So I feel from your question, Doro, I would say, in my personal opinion, just a personal opinion, that well, some things needs to be done to see how some of these things can be checkmate. But it is the
Barrister, you're just running away from it. Some monies need to be made.
no, bills have to be paid.
Okay.
Bills have to be paid.
So just to economize it,
litigation in Nigeria, litigation is very expensive.
Yeah, it is.
I would say litigation is very expensive. Even if you want to go to court for anything, you must pay filing fees, you must pay the lawyer. It's the procedure. And it's
so of course it's legal.
It's legal. Definitely the fees are legal, no matter how we look at it. But sometimes we begin to, when we begin to have a roundtable talk like we're doing now, where lawyers can begin to see the need to appreciate the fact that those who are even elected are expected to work at different levels, they will begin to be considerate as well.
Okay, let's talk about governance. You're that advocate of good governance, and so how does it affect, you know, good governance in general?
Yes. So the judicial system, especially elections and election petitions, it has a way of affecting good governance strongly. Just look at the side effects of it. If you are in court, not knowing whether your fate, if it's dangling as a leader, as an elected member, as an elected governor, if you are very much involved in election petitions, we have seen it. You find people drumming what is not existent, even on social media. They want to predict the courts. They will sew uniforms to go and play drums, expecting that the judgment. In fact, what shocks me recently is to see people going out and issuing out press releases on judgments that have been pronounced by courts. It is unknown. I've never imagined, because that doesn't change anything. Because there are procedures for appeals.
During the presidential...
I've seen people...
During judgment on the presidential petition...
even for Kano recently...
Justice Amani was actually saying, you know, that judges, you know, cannot actually be cowed or intimidated by social media thugs who would always bandy all sorts of things like
I tend to agree with that. Recently, somebody I know very well was picked up just because of a tweet. And he stayed in custody for a very long time just because of the tweet, and he mentioned a particular name. You know, that's defamatory. It's a different thing when you talk about the system all. Then now you descend to the arena and say, Doro, if you are a high court judge, for instance, I say, Doro, you are could be. I mention your name as that you have perverted justice. Or on the other alternative, if you because you are a Muslim, a fellow Muslim, you go to mosque together with a fellow Muslim, you are a high court judge, he sees you and he thinks because of his sentiments, not knowing what the law says, you pass judgment against his emotions. You come to the mosque and he looks at you as an enemy. You see, it's a whole lot of issues that are playing out. So I would say that affects good governance to a large extent, generally. It affects good governance. If I keep doing litigation, I don't even have the concentration to work at my constituency because I don't know my fate. And now, recently, some judgments have had it that if you have stayed there and you are not qualified to be there, all the resources that have been paid, taxpayers' monies that have been paid to you, you refund it. So you can imagine, you can imagine the chaos that will be. So it affects good governance in a very, very negative way. So I would say that litigation, yes, have affected good governance, but beyond that, it is an aspect that has to be done because the law says it should be done.
Now, Barrister, there's this interesting issue. I mean, there's this something that played out during some of the judgments delivered recently in Plateau State. You know, you did say something about religion, you know, primordial sentiments and how they affect judgments of people and things like that. Now, Justice Mahmoud Tukur actually, you know, Justice Mahmoud Tukur did deliver judgments in favor of certain candidates and in disfavor of certain people. And there were people in Plateau State who wanted to attribute that to his faith and things like that. And then there was a certain Williams Rotimi too who delivered a judgment in favor of a certain person and in disfavor of certain persons. And then also people were trying to attribute that to his faith. Now, why do we have these situations where judges deliver sort of conflicting judgments, sometimes on same issues? What's going on?
It's a very good question, bro. I've seen, you know, this election petition tribunal, especially for on the plateau, even before they started sitting. I had a heated argument with an elder sister who is a retired high court judge in the state here. And when we had that conversation before the tribunal sat properly, I said, well, for me, I needed to know some of the things that the petition of the APC, because I'm just bringing our conversation to tie it down to the issue of conflicting judgments that have been delivered. She had an opinion, and her opinion was just simple, that if you disobey court orders, you know, she's a judge, so a retired judge, said if you disobey court orders, of course, that will speak against you. You cannot disobey court order and still want to benefit from the same court. That is the provision of the law. It's right that if you disobey, that's why if there's an appeal, if you have not said, let's assume there's cost that was awarded at the trial court. If you don't pay that cost, you cannot approach the court of appeal. That is what the law says. So in this circumstance, when she said that, I had a different opinion. And my opinion was simple. I said to her, I feel that this one aspect on the ground of that petition, one aspect, I have a problem with that. It's like you are challenging the law, the new law. That's, you know, the Electoral Act 2022. It's the first time it's been tested in court, at the tribunals. So it's new. But because I'm privileged to have handled a lot of pre-election matters to Supreme Court, so I had an understanding that anything that you're bringing for during post-election, you shouldn't be a meddlesome interloper. Meaning that is what the law says. I've had that in one of the judgments in Supreme Court. So I told her, I said, for me, that particular ground, maybe non-compliance is a different aspect. But if it is on the qualification or on the structure of a party, the law is clear about that. It's an internal affairs. So if it's an internal affairs, it should be handled as such. That was my opinion. So she said, no, that's her opinion. But later when the judgment started coming, the first judgment that came in, I think the one for the Plateau North Senatorial District, the one for just North Bassa, and the one for Mikan Kwampan, when those judgments came in, I called her. I said, I told you, that's my opinion. It's a pre-election matter, so it shouldn't be brought in as a ground. There are other grounds, non-compliance, overvoting, and all those issues can be brought in. Non-qualification can also be brought in as a post-election. Then later on, a week after or thereabout, other judgments started coming in on the basis that the party does not have, PDP does not have structure, and a lot of elections were set aside. Let me make it very clear that there's always a reason for the decision. Call it ratio decidendi in law. The reason for the decision the panels are different panels. And that is why judges have the ability. They have been saddled with the responsibility to dispense justice within the armpits of the law. So, people have not read the judgment to know the reason why panel A or panel B gave the judge two conflicting judgments. And some of the judgments, of course, will not stand on appeal for several. They might stand or not stand on appeal for several reasons. So I feel the reason, to answer your question directly, for various reasons within the armpit of the law, the judges are at liberty to look at the law critically before delivering that judgment. Because sometimes they'll say, is this not the same case? Is this not the same petition? Is it not the same issue on structure? Why is this one saying there's structure and the other one is saying that there's no structure?
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Barrister, for taking us on these. At this point, our listener and, of course, our viewer will just go on a short break. When we come back, it's going to be your time, and so stay tuned.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion? How was your...
Are you bored and need some company? Get a TV experience like no other on Unity TV. We are turning up the hits with captivating TV shows, electrifying political programs, music, movies, and lots more that will leave you craving. I'm sure you want to know more. Tune in to Unity TV today and let the excitement take over.
Please pay attention. It starts from the foundation. Everybody needs somebody. You turn a blind eye and care nothing less. Say it's just business, all about the money. You are so unbothered as long as they pay. Say it's just business, all about the money. You know they're on a fast lane, but you've got business to run. So you look away the other way.
It concerns you. It kill law, it kill dreams. It land people for jail. War against drug abuse. Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you...
So much for staying tuned to Unity 93.3 FM and Unity TV. It has been a wonderful discussion in the studio this morning. Don't forget, we are reaching you live from the city of Jos, the home of peace and tourism. And so this time is all of your time. You begin to call us and just tell me your name, where you're calling from, and then you go straight in a minute. Let's hear what's your own view, your opinions as regard issues that we have. Yes, from the studio, and of course anywhere in Nigeria you can bring it up. Let's see how we would be able to talk around it. And so Beatrice Adamuiji remains my name, the anchor, and I have on the studio an in-house analyst and political scientist, Shabudoro. And again, we are in the studio here together with our guest. He's been away for quite some time, though he's not a new person in here. Barrister Sam Tuggs is in the studio. That unrepentant advocate of good governance and, of course, peaceful coexistence. Yes. He's in the studio. And so if you want to call, do well to just dial 070-3235-3315. You can also go Unity Radio FM/TV Jos. You'll be live with us on our Facebook page. And thank you very much. We just let Barrister to just cap up on the issue of good governance? Maybe in a minute or two as we begin to receive calls.
Well, I just want to say that the election petitions are almost rounding up now. So my strong advice to those who have been settled in court to go back to good governance, to give them the evidence of democracy to their people, and also to serve selflessly. Because if you are a selfless leader, I want to assure you that most of the people you hear do extraordinary things in their constituencies, even on the plateau. If you look at it critically, it's selflessness. Because people don't put self above the people who have taken them there. So I would advocate that those people who are in position should be able to, without any reservation now, begin to work towards achieving governance.
Let's go back to make sure we work towards achieving and bringing to the very doorstep of Nigerians good governance. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, who did
good
you
morning, the guests in the house.
Thank
now,
you.
who they do is calling from Terminus.
Okay, so you have a minute.
My brother, what I want to shift this money into this matter is, let me say why the guests in the house, I want to say something.
Okay.
That if before Nigeria, we will make a good governance, good president, and so on and so forth, let that INEC chairman be an independent.
Okay.
Nothing like president will appoint who will be the INEC chairman. Nothing like me to appoint you as could be, you are going to be my chairman. Nothing like that. Let it be neutral so that the house will decide as well they are doing into the Senate president or into the House of Reps. Who will come and be the Senate president or House of Reps. You understand? So that before we get a good governor or good presidency. Because why I'm saying this is, if you didn't do so, we'll continue to be in this way until could be. If I employ you now, or you were as a manager in the studio, I should work for you. I will definitely dance under your toe. If I didn't do that, you will fire me. So definitely, that's why I asked this question. God bless you and bless Nigeria for us.
Amen. Thank you. You may want to be a part 070-3235-3315 is the studio line to join us this morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Goodby.
Oh, thank you very much, and amen to that.
Mr. Doro and the guests in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Adil. We're calling you from Bochi Road.
You're welcome, Adil.
God will continue to bless you people.
Amen.
You see, my major take is this. If we can have an institution that will help us to tutor our leader on how to govern, honestly, it would have been make one to be very happy. Because I think they can be taught the rudiment of leadership so that they will know that what their work is majorly to come and serve the people. But the problem of governance in this country is that the politicians just see the politics and the office, the public office, as an avenue to say bye-bye to poverty, which is not supposed to be. You understand? So at least we are supposed to have leaders that are supposed to serve the people and not to lead the people. At least if you are leading, you must just have to serve the people.
Yes.
But in a situation where the things are not working that way, you see, people will not be happy with the type of governance. Let governance don't be a do or die affair.
Yes.
That when a particular person loses election, you cannot even congratulate or say you congratulate the leader of an election. You see, Goodluck Jonathan will remain a legend in this country because he did not even look at any issue as regards issue of even election. He just congratulated even President Muhammadu Buhari, and Nigeria moved on. Heaven did not fall.
Thank you.
So our politicians need to learn a lot of lessons from this. The right time they did the needful.
All right.
And lastly, please, I just want to ask a question. Is it not proper that we raise the bar in terms of academic record of our leaders? If you must become a governor, a president, or even just a local government chairman, so that at least you will know the rudiment of leadership, you know what brought you to that office.
Thank you.
I pray God give our leaders the wisdom to lead us in this nation.
Thank you.
God bless you people.
Thank you very much. From our Facebook page, this one is from Mutala Yahayama Ija. I say, good morning, my excellent radio presenter, Mr. Shaibu Doro Kubi, and the guest. May God bless you all and your families. God bless Nigeria and Plateau State from Mutala Yahaya Maigia Yanshanu. Thank you very much, Mutala. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Kogi. Good morning, Mr. Doro and the barrister.
Oh, thank you very much.
This is Yakubu Sali calling from Zaria Road.
Yakubu Sale, you have a minute. You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Honestly speaking, the guest has spoken very well.
You're welcome.
And I'm very sorry to say I will not congratulate Barrister Kalem Muswan and Aswajibola Amatinebu
Okay.
for their victory in the tribunal court.
All right.
Because of my own reasons.
Okay.
I want to congratulate the followers because they are proving to the Nigerians that they know what they are doing.
Okay. How?
They remain calm, they remain patient, and they accepted what has been going on.
Mm.
So I want to urge the leaders, please, they should try and write their names in gold so that by the end of their tenure, we congratulate them.
Mm.
Because I believe that you congratulate somebody that has done something that is reasonable.
Mm.
We are facing multidimensional problems. So the insecurity, how things are, the price of food and services are skyrocketing.
Mm.
And look at the kidnapping, the way they are kidnapping students and what have you. So it will even discourage those that are even intending to go to school.
Yes, thank you.
But if these problems are being solved, I strongly believe, if no matter how somebody hates you, if you solve his problem, he must congratulate you and he must say that you are the hero.
Yes.
So please, I want them to look into our issues to make sure that they solve our problems, to give us fertilizer on time, not by the end of the rainy season, then they bring fertilizer. And what are we going to do with it?
Thank you.
So look at the issue of this thing, school fees. Some people are trying to drop out because they cannot afford to pay the school fees.
Mm.
So please, they should try and do something.
Mm.
And even those pensioners, some people are buying medicine and they have not been paid for 8 months, 11 months. Some are even in a state of coma. So at least they should try and do something so that we congratulate them. Thank you. God bless you.
Well, thank you very much. Do the needful and we'll congratulate you. Not the politicians, but congratulating the followers. And this one is coming from Mutala Muhammad Tajiri saying, good morning, gentlemen in the studio. I really enjoyed the discussion with the barrister in the studio. And we really appreciate it. A HAUSA man will say, Sharia Sabanin Hankali. So when it comes to law, we should listen to those who read law. Muhammad Tajuddin from Naragoda. Thank you very much, Muhammad Tajuddin. Of course, and we have this one is coming from Tamim Garga. Oh, it's been a while. Tamim, it's good to know that you throw in a comment today.
He might be joining us in the studio one of these days.
Tamim, it's good to. I can't wait to see you, to have you in the studio. He's saying, good one. Thank you, Tamim. And this one is coming from Umar Nafi. Say, she's very nice. Yes, thank you. Another one here, it's Amar is saying, good morning, Shuaibu Doro. Shuaibu, good morning, Nigeria. And this one is coming from Domda Nati Innocent. Is say, Daga Kaduna Kaise. Oh, he's watching us live from Kaduna, and so we appreciate you. And again, if you want to send us an SMS, you do that very quickly, 0808478 9 in 4 places. And I have this to read from our SMS. It's saying, good morning to all of us. Nice move, barrister. Modesty is a trait that makes most indecent people worthwhile. Living a decent and modest life is key. Hassan Garba. Hassan Garba, thank you for sending your SMS. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning. We barely can hear you. You may need to call us back on 070-3235-3315. That is the line to be a part of this conversation this morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. Who is on the line this morning? It's good to have you. So you have a minute, please.
I have a question for Barrister.
Okay, barrister is all ears.
Okay.
What's your question?
The crime
primary is the matter of the party.
Okay, your question.
There is the building of the delivery for the governorship candidate of Plateau State.
Did you get that?
Not really.
All right, we can't. I really cannot get your question. I've not gotten it at all.
Okay,
The question.
The question, the government of Plateau State.
Yes.
You say that it is the matter of the party.
Okay. Yes. Barrister has got it. That. So
you understand that, Emma?
Yes.
I think if that is the case, why is there invite INEC when they are doing primary?
All right. Thank you very much. Barrister will respond in due time.
Okay.
Thank you very much for calling. I think Barrister has gotten that real good, and he'll respond in due time. So, hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
We can hear you very clearly. So, what's your name and where are you calling?
Thank you very much. The humble one, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Thank you.
I just have to be brief. You see, happiness is meant for us today. I don't really know why we always continue to fight for political issues, and nobody will say congratulations and help each other to set their head. I feel and all the rest of them. I'm very happy that you have elected somebody that was there even to explain to people. I think you have to borrow from Jonathan what he did. And that people they think is doing and time is being wasted. I really am not happy. So smile and grow from Diana. God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. A regular caller there.
Usman Okoro.
Yes. Thank you. I think in a moment we may pick just one or thereabout, and then we'll let Barrister to respond to some of this issue. I think Barrister, why don't maybe you begin to respond?
Like one of the questions was asking about pre-election. If I understood him very well, he was saying, why will INEC go and monitor a primary? Because you know that the basis of that pre-election matter on issue of structure started on this issue of PRP with Musa Aga, I think so, when the court said the party had no structure at that time. And there was a high court decision that said go back and put your house in order. So from the period at which the court said go and put your house in order, the INEC has no option but to go and monitor a primary election that is being communicated to it. There was a timetable for elections, and as soon as the timetable was rolled out, it is important for political parties to adhere to that timetable because they are time bound. That is, most of the issues about elections are actually time bound. That's why they use the word sui generis to them, because it's a special kind of court. So I think the pre-election was very explicit. In my personal opinion, that probably the party went back and did the needful, or not. There are two things, and it's because you know this matter will definitely go to Supreme Court. Definitely. So the pronouncements will be at different levels. So, but at this level, the court for the governorship, the court said that I read some of the statements that. It's just like a neighbor peeping down into the compound of his another person. So you see, the law has a way. The judges are beginning to be. That's why they said they are technical people. In the area of technicality has gone, but they use technical language to communicate messages. The decision of the court. So I feel that the pre-election was. INEC has no option but to monitor a primary election.
To ensure compliance.
That order. But another thing is whether it was done rightly or wrongly is for the courts to decide.
All right. Okay. I think we just pick a few more. 0703235331 is the line to join us in the studio this morning. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, it's good to have you. You have a minute, please.
Okay. The issue that it's not a discussion. All this is really down to bad leaders.
Okay.
That is the origin of the whole thing.
Okay.
If our leaders are so sincere to themselves and they want to serve, not to rule, we'll get it right.
Okay.
Because when the masses say this is what we want, leaders say no, this is what I want. At the end of the day, we have it wrong. So I'm appealing to those who are vying for a position. If you know you are not going to serve the people, please stay clear. That we have a right thing to be done. This court and counter court, it doesn't help us. Instead of them to use such money to build roads, put medicine in our clinic,
yes,
we are battling the court. So I advise, and at the same time, INEC should be open.
Okay.
Whatever they tell me, shall they do it, let them do it. This is my case.
Oh, thank you very
I
much.
thank the
Okay, the community leader there.
Yeah.
And thank God, Barrister, you also have been a community leader.
Very well.
So now he's calling, instead of spending money, go to court and all this, why not just use the money for some developmental...
Like he rightly said, it goes back to leadership. If we have, one of the callers said, there should be an institution that teaches leadership, specially to people who can be groomed up. These are things that, if once this issue of leadership is settled, I want to assure you that those who and making it very unattractive in terms of the benefits that come with the office, once it is not that attractive, good leaders will emerge automatically. People who don't look at it, for instance, you could be an Ndoro, you cannot be given a position of leadership and go back and do what the other politicians have been doing, because you have been advocating for good governance. So it means it's a form of training on its own. Even the Unity FM is a form of training for those who truly want to do the right thing. So I would believe that it still goes down to leadership. So my advice will definitely be, if a community leader is calling for this, the communities are becoming more aware. They don't just vote for anybody. There's always bargaining power in respect to the facilities that
Barrister, what will be your final words, please?
Yes, my final words is that let us not always look at court of public opinion when it comes to the decisions of court. As far as there's appeals, please, everybody can approach the courts or the higher courts for redress. So I advise, especially those who are social media handlers or those who are newscasters, to begin not to just make sweeping statements about the judiciary without actually knowing the workings of the judiciary. And I also advise those who are in government to look at the masses as the first priority, like from the callers. A lot of callers are saying selflessness. Let there be service. So that's my advice to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Doro, back to you. Your party words, please.
I was just trying to seek your permission to read this from one of our
please just do that in a minute.
It says, I'm watching you live from Kaduna. Keep up the good work. My name is Lawal. I just thought we should read it because it's actually from.
Yes.
We like it when people from far actually do, join us and share talks and things like that. Yeah, just like the barrister has said, good governance, selflessness, sacrifices. I think if we can have that, we'll be good to go.
Oh, thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you
it's a pleasure
for being in the studio. Doro, thank you for always being in the studio.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, of course, we like it when people from far and near join us so that we can do this together. We are participating to make sure that good governance comes to our very doorsteps. So let's keep doing this. We have come to the end of today's edition of Unity Train, and tomorrow is going to be another beautiful day. I pray that you stay tuned for other programs on Unity 93.3 FM and TV. From me, Petrus Adamuiji, bye-bye.
Mr. Politician, it's good to see you again. It's been so long since you've been here. You had me thinking you were dead. How's your taxpayer mansion?